Welcome to Learning English, a daily 30-minute program from the Voice of America. I'm Jonathan Evans.
And I'm Ashley Thompson. This program is aimed at English learners, so we speak a little slower and we use words and phrases especially written for people learning English.
Today on the program, you will hear from Katie Weaver, Phil Deerking, Brian Lynn, and Anna Mateo. Later, Kelly Jean Kelly and I will present our American history series, The Making of a Nation. But first, here is Katie Weaver.
American Defense Secretary Jim Mattis has accused Russia of trying to influence a planned vote in Macedonia. The vote could open a path for the country to join NATO. Mattis spoke to reporters traveling with him to Skopje, the Macedonian capital. He said he had no doubt that Moscow had given money to pro-Russian groups to defeat the vote about changing Macedonia's name. A name change would end a dispute with Greece, which has territory of the same name. Greece has repeatedly blocked Macedonia's request to join NATO. Mattis said, "We ought to leave the Macedonian people to make up their own minds." Macedonians will vote on September 30th to decide on the possible name change. In June, Greece and Macedonia agreed that Macedonia would change its name. In return, Greece would end its objections to Macedonia's request to join NATO. Other Western leaders had accused Russia of interference in the issue earlier, including the Chancellor of Germany and the Chief of NATO. In July, Greece expelled 2 Russian diplomats accused of giving money to groups against the name change. Russia objected to the expulsions as baseless. The dispute over the name began when Macedonia gained independence from Yugoslavia in 1991. Greece argued that the use of the name was an insult to Greek history. Officials also said sharing the name could lead to a Macedonian claim on the Greek territory named Macedonia. More than 100 United Nations member countries recognize Macedonia officially as the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. The vote will ask Macedonians to decide if they want to join the EU and NATO by accepting the agreement between the Republic of Macedonia and the Republic of Greece. If the majority vote yes, the country will be renamed the Republic of North Macedonia. I'm Katie Weaver.
In Bangladesh, 2/3 of all girls are married before the age of 18. Getting married at an early age takes away some of their childhood. It also affects the girls' right to an education. A not-for-profit organization is trying to change that by providing educational support through an effort called the Girls' Education Program. The group, called Speak Up for the Poor, has offices in the United States. The support is coming from everyday U.S. citizens, like a mother and her 9-year-old daughter from Maryland. When Sasha Forbes heard the founder of Speak Up for the Poor, she was moved by the group's cause. "I'm very passionate about empowering girls and empowering women," Forbes said. Speak Up for the Poor does a lot of work in Bangladesh, one of the world's poorest countries. Troy Anderson is the founder and international director of Speak Up for the Poor. So, in Bangladesh, the major problem there is child marriage, where up to 2/3 of the girls are married before the age of 18, Anderson said, and quite a lot of those are getting married when they're 13 or 14 years old. So, we're working on the preventative side to keep girls in school so they won't be forced into legal marriages when they're young. The Girls' Education Program provides support to girls from 30 villages in rural Bangladesh. It pays for books, school supplies, and educational programs outside of normal school hours. About 1,300 girls are registered in the program, with hundreds more on the waiting list. The girls depend on the donations of families to help them finish school. For the past year, the Forbes have supported a 12-year-old girl in Khulna, the third largest city in Bangladesh. Sasha Forbes said she decided to take her 9-year-old daughter Maya to Bangladesh to visit the girl they were helping. "I wanted her to be able to relate with a young girl on the other side of the world, and to get that perspective and know that not everyone lives the type of life or experience that we have. And then also I wanted her to know that if she felt passionate about something and she wanted to make a difference or volunteer, that it's very possible." For 2 weeks, the mother and daughter from Maryland volunteered their time and worked in several villages in Khulna. They spent time with the girl they supported, visited classrooms, brought presents and school supplies, and taught English to young girls. Maya says the time spent in Bangladesh taught her an important lesson. "I basically learned that no matter how much stuff you have, no matter how educated you are, inside everyone is basically the same person." After returning to the U.S., the Forbes continue to speak up for the poor. They raised money through yard sales, workout programs, and even selling drinks like lemonade. They hope to bring the money they collected to Bangladesh in November. Their efforts have moved others like Wendy Zanders to support their cause. "I may not be able to, pack up my bags, take time off from work, and go to Bangladesh, but because she had that passion to do so, we can support her financially or whatever it is that she needs." With the help of groups like Speak Up for the Poor, Forbes and her daughter are making a difference in the lives of many. Through their efforts, many more young girls are getting the chance to learn so they can follow their own paths to success. I'm Phil Deerking.
German automaker Volkswagen will stop producing its famous Beetle model next year. The Beetle has been one of America's most recognizable vehicles for nearly 70 years. The first Beetle was introduced in Germany in 1938, when the Nazi Party controlled the country. The vehicle was first developed by Ferdinand Porsche. The company began as a state-operated company called Volkswagen Werk, or the People's Car Company, under the control of Nazi leaders, including Adolf Hitler. After World War II, the Allied nations decided to support Volkswagen to help restart Germany's automobile industry. The Beetle came to the U.S. in 1949, where it became known as a simple car with a very unusual look. Unlike most vehicles, its engine was in the back of the car. During the 1960s, it was especially popular with America's hippies. The Beetle also was popular with members of the baby boom generation who were born and grew up after World War II. The Beetle sold in the U.S. for about 30 years before the company halted sales in America in 1979. The company continued production of the model in Mexico and Latin America. But the car made its return to the American market in 1998 in an attempt to increase Volkswagen sales. This time, the car was launched as the new Beetle. This model kept the same basic shape, but had a more modern look and came with the latest technology. The vehicles were available in new, brighter colors, and the designers created playful elements, such as a flower holder in the front seat. This new design appealed mainly to female buyers. Volkswagen redesigned the Beetle for the 2012 model year in an effort to make it appeal more to men. This model had a flatter top, less rounded body, and increased storage space. The change resulted in 5 times more U.S. sales, a total of 29,000 vehicles during the first year. Sales kept rising to reach 46,000 in 2013, but then saw a major drop. Industry data shows that Volkswagen sold just 15,166 Beetles in 2017. The end of the Beetle comes at a turning point for Volkswagen. The automaker was hurt in recent years by a scandal in which it was forced to admit some of its cars were equipped with devices that cheated on diesel emissions tests. Volkswagen is now preparing to launch a series of electric vehicles to appeal more to a new generation of environmentally concerned buyers. Hinrich Wiebken is president and CEO of Volkswagen Group of America. In a statement, he said the loss of the Beetle will likely produce a lot of different emotions for the vehicle's many fans. He announced that to celebrate the Beetle's rich history, the company is launching 2 final models of the car in 2019. These final Beetles will get several new features inside and out. The Volkswagen chief said as the company moves forward, there are no immediate plans to replace the Beetle. However, Wiebken noted that the company did announce last year it was bringing back a new version of its popular Volkswagen bus. That new vehicle, the electric ID Buzz, is expected to go on sale in 2022 in the US, Europe, and China. Because of that decision, he said it is best to never say never about the Beetle. I'm Brian Lynn.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health and Lifestyle Report. About 1.4 billion people around the world do not get enough physical exercise. That represents about 1/4 of the world's adult population. Those numbers come from the United Nations World Health Organization. A new WHO report warns that a lack of exercise greatly increases the risk of cardiovascular disease and other health problems. These problems include type 2 diabetes, dementia, and even some cancers. The WHO says the new study is the first to estimate physical activity trends around the world over time. A report on the study was published earlier this month in The Lancet. Researchers looked at 358 population-based studies between 2001 and 2016. Those studies involved nearly 2 million people in 168 countries. The researchers wrote that the availability of data across income groups and regions was spread fairly evenly. They said the exception is in Latin American and Caribbean countries. Nearly half of the countries had no data on activity levels. In a statement, the WHO said that many people are not moving around enough, and this is a cause for concern. Activity levels depend on many things. For example, take sex. Except for East and Southeast Asia, women are less active than men in all other areas of the world. Regina Guthold was the lead author of the report. She says the study also found a wide range of physical activity levels for countries around the world. She notes that some nations appear to be more active than others.
Ranging from as low as 6% in Uganda and Mozambique to 67% in Kuwait. 4 countries had a prevalence of inactivity of over 50%. That's Kuwait, American Samoa, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. And this all refers to the year 2016.
Another factor is a person's wealth. The report notes that people in wealthier countries generally are more inactive than those in other countries. The report said the levels of physical inactivity are more than 2 times as high in wealthy countries as they are in countries where people earn low wages. In wealthier countries, people are more likely to spend time sitting in offices. They are also more likely to use computers and electronic devices for recreational activities and to travel long distances. The report notes that people in poorer countries often do more physical labor. They are also less likely to use motorized vehicles. This leads to being more physically active. To stay healthy, the report suggests that people do at least 150 minutes of moderate physical activity or 75 minutes of intense physical activity every week. It also urges governments to provide and care for infrastructure, such as better and safer roads. This would help support increased walking and cycling for transportation, as well as sports and physical recreation. There are also many things people can do for themselves. If you work In a high-rise office building, take the stairs instead of an elevator or escalator. Go for a walk during your lunch break. Take more breaks during the workday and move around. If your workplace offers a gym, a place to work out, or exercise classes, make sure to use them. At home, take walks with your family or friends after dinner. Take classes such as kickboxing or yoga. Do your own yard and housework. Join an activity that you can do with a group, such as biking or boating. Go dancing with friends. Exercise or stretch as you watch television at night. And that's the Health and Lifestyle Report. I'm Anna Mateo.
Welcome to The Making of a Nation, American History from VOA Learning English. I'm Kelly Jean Kelly. Today, Jonathan Evans and I tell about the presidency of Barack Obama. He served 2 terms, from 2009 to 2017. He was the country's 44th president. Barack Obama had campaigned on promises of hope and change. Obama was able to meet those promises, in part, on the night of his election, simply because he was the first African American president. Historian Michael Nelson is a professor at Rhodes College in Tennessee. He is also an expert on U.S. politics and the presidency.
There's a very famous photograph of Obama in the Oval Office bending over so that a little boy, a little African-American boy, can rub his hair and notice that the president's hair felt just like his did. That was a moment when millions of Americans who had never seen anybody who looked like them in the White House could look and say, well, it's happened. That's now within the realm of possibilities.
But while Obama's election marked a big change in American history, Michael Nelson uses a different word to describe Obama as president.
Barack Obama was about as steady as they come. Not emotional, not impulsive, thoughtful, deliberate. For the most part, Obama was consistently the same from day one until the very end in terms of the way he conducted himself in office. And, of course, the presidency being a kind of fishbowl, the whole country was seeing that on a daily basis for 8 years.
When he first took office, Obama faced ongoing conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq and a struggling economy at home. The issues were so urgent that he spoke about them in 2009 in his first speech as president.
Our nation is at war against a far-reaching network of violence and hatred. Our economy is badly weakened, a consequence of greed and irresponsibility on the part of some, but also our collective failure to make hard choices and prepare the nation for a new age.
In answer to these issues, Obama and his advisors developed plans to fight terrorism and ease U.S. involvement in the Middle East. In 2011, U.S. Special Forces killed the leader of the al-Qaeda terror group, Osama bin Laden. He had organized a number of terrorist attacks around the world, including those carried out against the United States on September 11, 2001. Also in 2011, Obama declared the U.S. military was ending its involvement in the Iraq War. In 2014, he announced plans to withdraw U.S. combat troops from Afghanistan by the end of 2016. At home, Obama's administration was facing another kind of emergency. Several American banks had already failed. Other banks and industries were at risk, not just in the United States, but around the world. A major economic depression seemed possible. In answer, one of Obama's first acts as president was to sign a large spending bill known as the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. The measure reduced taxes for some families and paid for improvements to roads, bridges, and other infrastructure.
Also in 2009, the Obama administration approved a federal loan to save some major car-making companies from financial ruin. Without the money, the companies said they would have been forced to cut jobs and would have trouble making payments on debt. Many Americans opposed the administration's actions. Some argued against government spending. Others objected to saving businesses, while everyday people lost their homes or savings. But historian Michael Nelson defends Obama's actions.
Because the crisis never occurred, it's sort of hard for people to appreciate how close we came and how important it was to stimulate the economy and shore up the banks and reassure creditors and debtors and mortgage owners and everybody else that the government was on top of things and the economy was not going to sink to the very bottom.
The election of Barack Obama and the work of his administration was followed not only in the United States, but around the world. Less than 8 months into his presidency, the Norwegian Nobel Committee surprised many people by naming Obama as the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. It praised him for his extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation between peoples.
Obama was often described as a calm, unemotional leader. Yet the American public came to see another side of him. During his White House years, he often spoke to the nation after difficult or sad events. In 2013, 2 bombs exploded as runners neared the finish line at the Boston Marathon in Massachusetts. 3 people were killed and more than 250 injured. Immediately after the attack, Obama spoke to reporters.
Make no mistake, we will get to the bottom of this, and we will find out who did this. We'll find out why they did this. Any responsible individuals, any responsible groups will feel the full weight of justice.
That concludes the first part of our story about the presidency of Barack Obama. Join us tomorrow for the rest of the story with The Making of a Nation.
And that's our program for today. Listen again tomorrow to learn English through stories from around the world. I'm Jonathan Evans.
And I'm Ashley Thompson.